Mabuhay, Kamusika. Welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. This is a little two-part series about laying the foundation for the rest of your life with your Filipina wife. So basically, kind of concentrating on the first several months, reflections on Isa being here in America, the first few months. Now, this is the foundation. You must build it right. You must get off to a good start. Now, don't worry about getting off to a perfect start because you're human and you're not going to get off to a perfect start. But here is some things that, happen with us. And as usual, I just want to share them with you. Please subscribe if you're interested in a relationship with a Filipina, or you already have one and just want to, see how things go with another person. This is a wonderful relationship with a Filipina. I watch other YouTube channels so I can pick up things, anything at all, that I can learn. And if there's nothing I can learn, I can at least enjoy the fact that somebody else has a Filipina wife and are very happy together. So you want to get off to a good start. In our case, she got here on January 11th, 2016. I wanted her to see her sister get married on January 10th, so she did that. January 11th, she came up to the United States, and naturally here in the Midwest, in Nebraska, it was cold, and we had some colder days. And my wife thought that 70, 72 degrees was cold, and we were up in Eden Nature Park where there's no air conditioning because the weather is so nice, but she thought it was cold. She always sleeps with a towel, a blanket, excuse me, even in the summer. It's probably the air conditioning that makes her cold, but she always has a towel and wears something, so that's just Filipina. Some Filipinas actually like the cold weather. I don't think my wife, two and a half years in now to living here, likes the cold weather, but that was a shock to her system. So she's getting used to milder weather, and I think she appreciates now, like I told her she would, the fall and the spring. The spring and the fall, when you transition out of winter and out of summer, if you can catch that moment when you can kind of tell you're in transition, it's so utterly beautiful. That's worth it, because you don't really have that in the Philippines. Yeah, they're used to summer, they're not used to the winter. But most of the time, I would think that the weather here would be nice for a Filipina. And the cold part, one good thing is she gets to buy some winter clothes, and hopefully, she can buy some winter clothes that she thinks looks nice on her. It's a little trade-off for having to be in that cold weather. So your wife or fiancé will spend the majority of her time with you when she gets here to be with you. So treating her in a way that sets the tone for what she perceives will be the rest of her life and the norm of your relationship is critical. Here are some things I did wrong that I've learned I need to correct in laying the foundation for our relationship. One is I shouldn't raise my voice. I tend to raise my voice. Sometimes I can be kind of animated, more emotional than my wife, and I'm used to raising my voice. It makes me feel good to let off steam. I don't like holding things in. I'd rather just get it out in the open as fast as possible, and then I feel better quicker. Well, I have to find different ways, because my wife, I learned early on, does not appreciate me raising my voice. I need to learn self-control, and that's even with the tone of my voice. Okay, I have to ask myself, is there any reason you have to be so demonstrative or histrionic or, talk so loud? No, not really. It's just what I'm used to, but it bothers my wife, so I shouldn't do that. So I also needed to learn to apologize. Since I had been alone and not married, you don't have those relationships where you upset somebody and have to say, I'm sorry. And that's not a good thing, ultimately. So when you are in one, you're going to upset your spouse, fiancé, girlfriend even, and it bothers you. Sometimes you're surprised and shocked by the things that you say and do. But just learn to say, I'm sorry, and learn to say I'm sorry for what. Don't just say I'm sorry. You could say I'm sorry because, I got caught or I got in trouble. It has to be I'm sorry because I offended you. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry that you trusted me. I'm sorry that I did this again when I know it bothers you, and I'm going to try to do better. So when she's here with you early on, this is an important time to help build her self-esteem. Now, generally, studies have shown that women have lower self-esteem than men. And so I'm not so much focusing on that as when she's here, she needs to have positive reinforcement. She's just left everyone and everything she's ever known to get on, in our case, 4 flights, about a day and a half of travel, because probably 24, 26 hours maybe flight time, and you've got 3 layovers in there if everything goes right. You've got to get to the airport early for the initial trip. It's a long experience, and there's a lot of time for her to think. When she gets here, you need to be able to greet her with open arms and try to get off to a really good start and say good things to her. She's going to feel like a fish out of water, and she's going to need a lot of encouragement. And fish out of water made me chuckle because I thought about all the water you see in the Philippines, and my wife lives near a fish port. And anyway, so use words that build her up, like remark about her beauty. Tell her why you married her, why you pursued her, why you found her so interesting. Tell her what she does well. Thank her for her cooking. Thank her for anything she does well. Thank you for the way she decorates, or for her demeanor, or that she's frugal, and looks for sales. That she takes care of herself, that she's so calm. Whatever it is, build her up. Get used to complimenting her, and let her get used to hearing it, because it's just positive reinforcement to be acknowledging to her the things that are important enough to you to recognize that she does well, that you have value, or that have value to you. Now, I made it then and still a daily experience to kiss her, touch her, tell her I love her before I get out of bed, before I leave work, as soon as I walk in the door after work. This is these first 3 months. This is how I showed her that I won't, and I don't, take her for granted. Especially if you are working still, as I am, and hopefully will for a long time. It's important to be praying for Filipinas for her to meet. This can help get off to a good start. You can ask different people. I asked my pastor, actually, and he did have a very valuable contact. You can look for an Asian center to call. Whatever you can do to try to hook up with some Asian people or communities. Last night, this is not last night, but the time I wrote this, my wife and I were told there was a local restaurant where some Filipinos frequented. So that's just something we could put on our list to check out someday. Her friends don't all have to be Filipinas, of course. Now, at this time, about 3 months here, my wife had met an amazing total of 9 Filipinas. 9 Filipinas, and she's closer to home, or excuse me, closer to some than to others, naturally. But I didn't even know there were that many Filipinas around that she could, in this city, that she could meet so quickly. I have found church to be an excellent place for my wife to meet women for socializing, and the women at church have been very friendly and have done a lot to help my wife make other contacts, all without me asking them to. That's great. A Filipino counselor or mentor I have who is in the Philippines and who knows my wife and attended our wedding reminded me that we're still very much in the learning about each other stage. And who knows, if we had married after knowing each other a couple of years, that statement might still be true, because I think until you're actually living with someone, you really don't know them, and it's going to take some time. So he told me I should be very patient, and that was good advice, because we want to be together for the long haul. Being together will bring out the stressors that tempt you to say things or do things you will regret So remind yourself to be patient and forgiving. Say you're sorry quickly and resolve disputes relatively quickly. The way you treat her the first 3 months may very well be the way she assumes she's going to be treated the rest of her marriage to you. Before our wedding, and now that she is here, I have continued to stress to my wife that she is the love of my life, and nothing will come between us. And I try my best to treat her as my queen. I don't want to slip back into feeling like I'm single, just because I have acquired a wife. I've accomplished marriage, a whole different lifestyle now, and I've really got to invest myself in her, I believe, if we're going to have a successful marriage. You've heard me say this before. I told her that her needs, wants, desires, and interests and privilege come before mine. I am, in a sense, expendable, in a sense, not important anymore. I married her to love her and to make her life better. Now I get to prove it each day. I think women are responders, and they will respond to your positivity and selflessness. So I know talking about giving up for your wife for your life, bothers some because it may feel like, well, that's just a weak way of looking at things, and you'll be trampled over, you'll be taken advantage of. But I don't believe that is true, and I will try to talk more about that in part 2. So let's look at that some more in part 2 on Love Beyond the Sea.